Hello and welcome to this talk. I'm Mike Thelwall and I'm going to talk about Word Association Thematic Analysis. This talk describes the method that's explained in my book, Word Association Thematic Analysis, a social media text exploration strategy, just published in 2021. So this presentation will go step by step with an overview of the method, and the fine details are in the book if you're interested. So first of all, what is Word Association Thematic Analysis, WATA for short? It's a method to identify themes in sets of texts. And for this method, you need a large set of texts, ideally at least 10,000 texts. So the text could be tweets, for example, or YouTube comments or article abstracts, preferably relatively short text, but they can come from any source. You also need ideas for comparisons, so we'll see some examples of that later on. And you'll need the free software Mozdeh, which is on the web, Windows only unfortunately, but you can download it on the web, or you can write your own program if you're a programmer. And the output of a word association thematic analysis is a set of themes related to the comparison that you're making within your text. And each theme is derived from a set of words identified from the comparison you're making, using a combination of computer steps and human steps. So we'll walk through the different types of step. So here are some examples of word association thematic analysis studies, for about 16 so far using this method that are published or submitted. So I'll just go through a few of them. In each case, there's a topic for the study. There's a particular type of data, tweets or YouTube comments for these examples, and tweets or comments around a particular theme. So for example, the top one, tweets mentioning COVID-19, that's the theme. And the bottom one, these are comments on YouTube influencers videos. And there's also a comparison, a male against female, for example, in a few of them, or it could be for the autism study, people with autism against others. And for the YouTube discussion of bullying, it's comments about bullying against comments about other things. So different types of comparison in there. And for the Black Lives Matter study, the comparison is between different time periods in 2020. And findings column gives some examples of the types of findings that you can get as the end product of a word association thematic analysis. For example, the top one, a COVID study found that females tweeted more about safety and males more about politics when they were tweeting about COVID-19 in the first few months. And another example, the tweeting about ADHD, the theme discovered in this set of texts is that the brain was discussed as if it's a separate entity by people with ADHD. So more often than other people, they tweeted about their brain as if it was separate from themselves somehow. Okay, so all of these illustrate examples of types of findings that you could get from a word association thematic analysis. So let's look at the things that you need for word association thematic analysis. So the first requirement is you need a large set of text from somewhere. So it can be any set of short text, so long as it's large enough, preferably 10,000, and the texts aren't too long. Although I can't give exact numbers about what it constitutes to be too long, but all of these are fine. So tweets, Twitter's been used for most of the studies so far. Comments on YouTube videos. Another example would be reviews from anywhere, such as TripAdvisor, or posts on Reddit, or the titles, abstracts, and keywords of academic papers. There are 3 WATA studies with this type of data, or reviews of academic papers. So all of these are relatively short and suitable for the method. Mozdeh can collect the tweets and the YouTube comments, and if you have text from other sources, you can feed it into Mozdeh after you've collected it yourself. So 10,000 text is the suggested minimum, but the more text you get, the finer grained themes you identify and the deeper insights that are potentially available from the method. And also, if you've got more focused text or longer text, you can also get finer grained themes with smaller numbers of them and deeper insights. And the second requirement after the text is some kind of comparison to make. It might be that in your study there is a comparison that's at the heart of the study, for example, male against female, more recent against less recent, or one topic against another, but there are also other ways of introducing a comparison to organize your study through, even if it's not the heart. So the kinds of comparisons that have been made already with different studies are gender, male against female, or against non-binary as well, if you have a lot of texts with non-binary genders. So we only need more for non-binary because assuming in the data set that they form a small percentage. So in Twitter, I think it's 1 in 500 declare a non-binary gender. So you just need more tweets overall if you're going to include non-binary comparisons. Time, earlier versus later. Popularity, you can also check. More popular versus less popular posts. Find themes in this comparison. Or sentiment, positive against negative posts, or more positive against less positive posts, for example. Topic comparisons, if you've got 2 different topics that you'd like to compare, then you can do this. For example, maybe QAnon versus non-QAnon Trump posting. You might compare. And the comparison could also be against non-project texts. So you might want to benchmark your texts against general text from either a very generic source or a specifically compiled benchmark collection of texts. So this will tell you what is particular about your topic in comparison to related issues or a similar set of texts. So some examples. For gender comparisons, you might compare how males and females comment differently on museum videos, or which research topics and methods are used more by females or males within academic fields, for example, through the words they use in titles, abstracts and keywords of papers, or how do males, females and non-binaries describe themselves differently in their Twitter bios based on the words. For time comparisons, you could find themes that change over time. For example, how did tweets about racism change after the killing of George Floyd? What were the themes before and afterwards? And which academic topics and methods are more common now than they were in the past? So you compare the newer abstracts, titles and keywords against the older ones. And topic 1 versus topic 2 comparison, an example of that might be how do reviews on 5-star hotels differ from reviews about 1-star hotels. So you can find what things are important for the customers of these different types of hotel. More examples. Popularity. You can look for themes in the more popular against the less popular tweets. So, for example, how are highly retweeted UNDP tweets different from less retweeted UNDP tweets, United Nations Development Programme, or even sentiment. So, what aspects of hotels do people comment on when they leave a positive review in comparison to a negative review? So, what kind of things do people like when they are happy about a hotel compared to unhappy about a hotel? So an example of something that they might like could be the attitude of the staff is often commented on in reviews of hotels that are very positive, especially if it's like a high-star hotel. People will praise the personalised attention from the staff members in a posh hotel. And a benchmark comparison example, how do patient tweets about eczema differ from patient tweets about other health conditions? So what about eczema tweets is different from other health-related tweets. So that might give you insights into the specific issues for people with eczema. Okay, overview of the word association thematic method. So step one is the data collection. So either you collect the text or you get Mozdeh to collect the text. So Mozdeh will get them from Twitter or YouTube, including the Twitter academic research program that's just opened. And stage two is word association detection. So this is the automatic processing stage. Mozdeh will identify words that are more common in each subset of the text that's compared. And then the next stage is the first human stage, word association contextualization. So you contextualize each word to identify its typical meaning and context in your texts. So we'll see some examples of that, but essentially Mozdeh tells you which are the important words and you figure out what they mean. So important words is the word association detection stage, and what they mean is the word association contextualization stage. And finally, the thematic analysis stage. This is where you identify themes in the set of contextualized words. So you might get so many contextualized words that you can't really coherently report them. Maybe you have hundreds, and the thematic analysis stage will group them into related words which you can label as themes. So in terms of a picture, you start at the top with some text, so they might be tweets or YouTube comments, and then Mozdeh splits them up into the sets that you choose. So it might be, for example, female and male, or later and earlier, or topic 1 and topic 2. And then Mozdeh, so the computer identifies the keywords for set A compared to set B. It produces a list of words, and this is the word association detection stage, which is automatic with the computer. And then the next stage is your job, word association contextualization. So you take the list of words from Mozdeh and you find their context by doing the quick analysis, reading the keywords in the context of the text that they're used in. And then the final stage is the thematic analysis, where you take the contextualized words, the list of contextualized words, and you group them. So you change the order so that the similar words are together, the words with similar context are together, and you give them a theme name. So in this example, there are at least 2 themes within the words. Okay, so this is an overview of word association thematic analysis. So let's have a look at the stages in detail. So first of all, data collection. Mozdeh, if you're using it, can collect the tweets from keyword queries or phrase searches or sets of users, including through the academic research Twitter that began in January 2021. And it can also collect comments on YouTube videos. It can also import any plain text files, any set of plain text files, or any set of tab delimited plain text files. So most sets of texts, unless you got them in a very strange format, you should be able to convert them into plain text files, and then Mozdeh can read them in. And if you want help on that, then if you visit the social media data analysis course at the Mozdeh website, or the help functions on the Mozdeh website, then you can get some assistance at reading the tweets and reading the text, and identifying tweets or YouTube comments. And for importing the text, there are also instructions at the Mozdeh website. Okay, stage 2, word association detection. So this is the easy stage for the human and the hard stage for Mozdeh. It has to do a lot of work. So we used Mozdeh's mine associations button to detect words that occur more often in the specified set of text than the remainder or the second set. So it finds words that associate with a subset of text in the sense of first, the word occurs in a higher percentage of texts than in the subset than the remainder or the second set. And the difference between the percentages is statistically significant. So Mozdeh runs statistical tests in the background, so you don't have to use the statistics, and then it reports the statistically significant results. So this is important if you're using the if you're analyzing the results, because you don't want to be analyzing differences that are in fact just the result of chance, rather than having a statistically significant difference indicating a likely real underlying cause. So some examples of word association detection. So OMG in one particular set of texts is female associated because it's in 15% of female tweets and 10% of the rest, so in a higher proportion of female tweets, and Mozdeh reports the difference as statistically significant. And it does this by just reporting 1, 2, or 3 stars for statistical significance. A wobble is not late associated in my data because it's in 4% of late comments but 5% of earlier comments, so it's not associated with being late because it doesn't have the higher percentage. And excellent is not popularity associated in my data because although it's in 10% of popular tweets compared to 9% of the rest, so it is more used in popular tweets, Mozdeh reports that the difference isn't statistically significant, so it doesn't give it any stars. Okay, so this is how it works. Mozdeh will report a list of words and tell you which ones are significant, statistically significant. So in Mozdeh, we click the Mine Associations button, and then Mozdeh displays a table of the top 1,000 word associations, including the statistically significant and the non-significant, if there are less than 1,000 statistically significant ones. So any number of stars means statistically significant. More details are given by Mozdeh. And the statistical test it uses is a chi-squared test with a Benjamini-Hochberg correction. So if you want more information about that, it's given on the Mozdeh website. But it's a safe method, or relatively safe method, of identifying significant differences in the data. So in Mozdeh, how does it work? So this shows the results of clicking the Mine Associations button in Mozdeh after selecting a female gender, and the set of text to analyze here is comments on TED Talks on YouTube. Okay, so this is comparing the female authored comments on TED Talks on YouTube against the remaining comments on TED Talks on YouTube. So for example, the top word says that comments authored by females 6.2% of the time contain the word thank, whereas the remaining comments contain the word thank only 2.8% of the time. So we have a difference. So thank is more likely to be used by females, and because there are 3 stars at the end, the difference is statistically significant. Okay, so that's how it works. So the next stage is word association contextualization. So the word association detection produces a list of terms, but it doesn't tell you their meaning or context. And that's your job to find out the meaning or context. So what do I mean by that? Well, maybe like is one of your top terms, but like could be a comparator, or it could be expressing positive sentiment. A comparator, this is like that, or I like that, expressing positive sentiment. So you need to know which meaning of like is the more common in your data so that you can draw conclusions from the results. And you need to know the context of the term, not just the surface meaning, but the context, the deeper context of the term. For example, in one set of tweets, the word congressional, which has a very clear meaning, I don't think it has multiple different meanings, so detecting a surface meaning isn't really necessary for this. But in one set of tweets, it was usually used in the context of discussing congressional district voting results in the USA. So that's a very specific context. So congressional could be used for many different congressional contexts, but in the set of texts analysed here, it's US elections and voting results, congressional district voting results. So that gives a much, much narrower context than the normal meaning of the word. So it's important to detect this narrower context through stage 3, the word association, contextualisation. So you need both the meaning and the context to draw conclusions about a word association, as we'll see in a bit. Okay, so the KWIC WAC method, what's this? A keyword in context, or KWIC, is a method from corpus linguistics to find the context of a word. And it's a very simple method, I think. Essentially, you read a random sample of text containing the term to identify both its meaning and its context. So I'd recommend you read at least 10 texts to identify the meaning and the context. And you might need to read more if the results aren't clear from the first 10 texts. So you're looking for the dominant meaning and context of the word in your set of texts. If you can't find a dominant meaning, then you might have to throw the word away. So in Mozdeh, we'll let you do the KWIC WAC analysis. All you need to do is enter the term as a query in Mozdeh. Select the same filters that you've used for the mine association, such as the gender filter, and select the random sort order, and you get a random set of text to run the KWIC on. So KWIC in Mozdeh, we'd enter inspiring as the keyword if we were trying to find the context of inspiring. And if we're trying to find out why females use the word inspiring more than males, we'd set the female gender filter in Mozdeh, and then we select the random sort by, so we don't get a biased subset of the text that we're going to read, but we get a genuinely random sample chosen with a random number generator. And here we get a list of texts from females using the word inspiring. So here it is, it's inspiring, 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 inspiring. So we can see the different texts. These are comments on YouTube videos. That we can see the different text comments using the word inspiring. So we can draw a conclusion about the context of the word. I think it only has one meaning, but we can see the context from these examples. Okay, so let's have an example of this, and this is one for you to have a go at. So I've reported a number of YouTube comments on TED Talks that contain the word love, and I'd like you to read through these and decide how you would describe the context of the word love in these comments. So pause the video now and think of your answer, and then restart and I'll show you my answer. Okay, so my answer is the context is loving the video or the presenter, or really liking perhaps the video or the presenter. So it's not just it's not romantic love, it's loving in the sense of really liking, and it's not loving anything, it's specifically loving the video or the presenter because they're comments on a video. Okay, so some more results from the word association contextualisation. You might get a list of words with their context. So here we have a list of 4 terms from some COVID-19 tweets. So these terms are all related to racism in COVID-19 tweets. And I think in this set of 4 terms, I think 2 of them have a clear surface meaning and 2 don't have a clear surface meaning. They have ambiguous surface meaning. So the words could mean other things than their typical meaning here, and I think they all have unclear context. In other words, they could be used in many different contexts, and you'd need to read the tweets to find out their context. So pause the video now if you like, and try to work out which two terms you think don't have a clear surface meaning. Okay, so I think the two terms that have unclear surface meanings are calling and slur. So why is that? Well, I think calling could also mean job, and in this context it doesn't mean job. A job can be a calling or a vocation. So this is calling the virus something, so it's about naming. So its surface meaning is naming. And slur, again, slur could mean slurring your words or slur as an insult, and in this case the meaning is insult, so the slur means insult. But I think disparities only has one meaning and anti-Asian only has one meaning, so it's the other two terms that have unclear surface meanings, but they all have different contexts that they can be used in, so all the contexts are unclear. Okay, so next stage, word association analysis. So if there are few significant terms, say less than 15, then you wouldn't need the thematic analysis stage of word association thematic analysis, and you'll just stop after the contextualization and report the results that you've got. So this would then be called a word association analysis. So the computer stage, the word association detection, plus the first human stage, word association contextualization. So if you've only got 15 terms, you probably don't need to cluster them into themes, less than 15 terms. So the thematic analysis stage is the next one if you have at least 15 terms to analyse. It's a variant of the social science research method of thematic analysis, and it should be applied only after the word association contextualization stage, so it's to group the context together. And for the thematic analysis, essentially you need to tag each term from its context with a single candidate theme which generalizes the context, and it should be relevant to the research goals if possible for the theme. So you have to use a little bit of lateral thinking here to try to find generalizing themes that encompass multiple terms if possible. And then you can sort the terms by theme and look for opportunities to merge together similar themes or to split themes up after checking that every term that you've allocated to the theme really fits with the theme. So this is a bit like the thematic analysis stages, which involve constant comparison. So sort by theme and look to merge similar themes or split up themes that don't actually seem to be one coherent theme after checking all the terms in the theme. So if you're adjusting a theme, then make sure that you recode and check all the themes, all the terms within the themes, to check that they're still coherent. So it's similar to a thematic analysis, but it's based on individual words in their contexts rather than text or sections of text. So here's an example of a thematic analysis. So I've got 4 terms here with their meaning and context from the COVID-19 tweets, and I've split these into 2 themes. So you might like to pause the video now and decide which themes you would identify from these 4 words, what you would call them, and which terms would go into each one. So I'll put my answer up in a second when you're ready. So the 2 themes I've got are racial and ethnic disparities in coronavirus deaths. So I think that's just the top term. So the top term's about disparities in death rates, and I think the final 3 terms are all about anti-Asian racism. So I've come up with 2 themes from this set of 4 terms. So maybe you got a different set of themes. So the important thing to check is that your themes are coherent, so they do make sense. You can come up with a reason why the terms fit into the themes that you've chosen. So ideas for reporting the results. So at the end of the Word Association Thematic Analysis, you'll get a set of themes. So how can you report them? So you can have a table of themes, if there are many, or a bullet point list of themes. So the theme name, anonymized quote, an explanation, and maybe a list of words that go with the theme. And here's an example taken from a thematic analysis of YouTube comments about bullying. So one theme was the bullying was horrible, and these were all words that describe the bullying itself. And if you look at the list of words, then some are clearly about bullying, like bullied, bullying, and some words are not obviously about bullying, such as by, but from the contextualization of the word by was usually used in terms of discussing who did the bullying. So the context of the word by was still bullying. And the second theme was the location for the bullying, school particularly, and all of the words identified in the list, school, primary, grade, secondary, at, mainly had the context of school as the location for the bullying. And the final one, I was attacked online. This was produced by a number of different words that specified online as the source of the bullying. So cyberbullying was typically used for that. So as you can see, these themes group together related words that have either the same context or similar context. So I think this really the same context for the second two themes, not quite the same context for the happened at school, because you've got different types of school. But the first theme, I think there are different contexts, but they're kind of related. So there's just bullying, or the nature of the bullyings, like verbal bullying, for example. So big picture to illustrate how what it might look like if you're doing a word association thematic analysis and you're comparing two sets, in this case the male and female. So you would actually have to do two word association thematic analyses, one for females, so split the text into male, female and unknown or non-binary in the remainder, and you find a set of themes for females, and then you do the same for the male subset, a second word association detection, and then a second context and thematic analysis. And so it's kind of double the work, and you get two sets of themes, and there's no matching between the male and female themes here. So you just get different sets. You get different sets of words. The words will be completely different, and so the themes are likely to be completely different. So the end result of this would be themes discussed by males more than females, and themes discussed by females more than males in tweets about vaccines in this example. So to summarize the method, so word association thematic analysis is a method to identify themes in sets of texts. It needs a lot of text, at least 10,000. It needs a comparison, and it needs Mozdeh, unless you like to write your own code to do the comparisons. And Mozdeh can also get the text for Twitter and YouTube. And there's a word association detection stage run by Mozdeh, which will find words that associate with your topic or filter, for example, gender, time, popularity, or sentiment. And a word association contextualization stage, which you have to do. You read words and identify words in context and identify their meaning and their context. So ideally at least 100 of the words already detected. And then the thematic analysis is clustering the terms into generalizing themes, so that these themes are the main output of your analysis. So for a normal thematic analysis, the themes would be the result of the analysis, and that's the same for word association thematic analysis. The themes are the output of the analysis. So I hope that made sense, and you can find more information on the Mozdeh website and detailed step-by-step instructions and lots of examples in the word association Word Association Thematic Analysis book. So please let me know if you have any questions or would like to know more information about the method. So thanks very much for listening.